Coming up, modeling a Tron Light Bike.
Sponsored by unoob.net, the Newbie Network. Music on Pixil.info is brought to you by Ekin.
Welcome to another episode of Pixil.info, the show that covers 3D, design, and web. I'm today's host, Pedro. In celebration of the new upcoming movie, Tron Legacy, we're going to take a look at some of the steps it takes to build one of these iconic bikes inside of Maya 2011. So let's get started.
To start off, we'll add a torus object to the scene. We'll click on the shelf icon to add it, and then rotate it on the X. Holding the X key will snap this object to the grid. Then, we'll go into the object's input and change the section radius to about 0.3. Now we'll increase both subdivisions to about 24 units. We'll then go into the top view and delete half of the torus. We'll create the ring around the tires by pulling out some of the edges. We'll try to see where the edge of the tire would be and then extrude those out a bit. Now we can mold the inner part of the tire into a straight edge. Expand by scaling up each section and checking the side view to ensure they line up. Make sure to snap the open edge to the grid. Once we have the tire modeled in the way we like, we can extrude the rest of the bike out. Select the first 3 sections of the faces, about a third of the tire, and extrude. Click on the small circle to change to a global orientation. Pull the faces out a bit in a diagonal direction. Pull the first couple of vertices down, leaving a couple of the faces for the top of the bike. Line them up until they're all straight. Now rotate the tire around and delete the back faces. We can now move the remaining vertices to the back to form the back of the tire. Select the back half of the edges to create the slit that releases the jet wall. Extrude the faces inward a bit. Scale the edges on the side and delete the extra faces the extrude creates.
Okay, now that we have the back portion complete, we can now start on the front part of the bike.
Create another torus with the same input values of 24. Set the section radius to about 0.4. Scale on the X direction a bit to give the tire a wider look. And just like the back tire, we'll snap it to the middle of the grid, select the half of the tire, and delete it. Find the edge, select one section of the faces, pull them out a bit, scale in all directions. Pull that back in a bit, select the next front sections of the tire curve, and pull to sculpt out the rim. Scale the vertices by the edge of the grid and scale the tires wider. Select the back third of the two face sections and extrude the front part of the bike. Delete the back faces, select the front curved part of the bike and move towards the front and scale them down a bit. Like the back portion of the bike, we'll straighten out the inner part of the tire, except for the vertices closest to the grid. Scale those down to make a smaller ring. Switch to a top view and split the faces on the top and add another section of faces. Now, select the faces that will make up the console and outer tire case. Extrude the faces on their local orientation. Smooth out the tire vertices at the bottom by pulling them inward. To make the model easier to see, I'll add some simple colors to plan out where the textures will be. I'll add a dark, light, and neon blue colors. Now we can pull out a couple of the vertices to make up the top portion of the bike. Lay them out to form a curve. And while we're at it, we'll sculpt out the hole that will house the engine. Don't forget to delete the faces on the back. We'll build a quick rider for the bike, a simple model out of a box, and a half of a cylinder for the helmet. Now we can do a quick check of the symmetry. Make sure the edges all snap to the grid by checking the top view. Duplicate the front and add a negative value to the Y scale. Double check that all vertices line up to the grid. And here we have a finished model with a couple more tweaks. I added a texture to the front tire, added detail to the console and back tire. The engine is just a modified cylinder. I added handlebars to the front tire. I also added a noise texture to the shaders and stretched out the helmet out a little.
Alright, and that's some of the steps you can use in creating your very own light bike. Don't forget to show support by being on the lookout for the new updated Light Riders game from DS Media Labs. Leave comments and questions, and follow us on Twitter and Facebook. I'm Pedro, see you guys next time. Welcome to another episode of Pixil.info. Don't forget to show support by looking out for the updated thing. Coming up! Coming up, modeling a light small light trike. Is it recording?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah. End of line.
End of line.
Sponsored by unoob.net, the Newbie Network. Music on Pixil.info is brought to you by Ekin.